Hi students. In this lesson we're going to cover how to animate some of your design work. It'll include setting your files up for pre-production, importing into After Effects, and doing a homepage intro and mobile animations. So let's get started. Okay, so let's get into the pre-production phase. Our end goal is to take this hero header graphic and animate it. So there's a few steps we need to do to prep our files before we do that in After Effects. And the first step is to actually crop this template. And in this scenario, the type for the description and the header are actually outside of the hero graphic. And if you have this scenario, I would highly recommend under document setup and you edit your artboard to crop your artboard up so then our animation is just in this space and we make a separate artboard for that type. What this allows us to do is make this a PNG later, and this is its own video. When you crop that, I want everybody to pay attention to the height and actually write that down. So mine's like 1365 at this point in time. So I'm going to write down 1365 because that's going to be my comp size in After Effects. And our second step is to jump over to our assets folder, and we're going to open the laptop phone and the phone PSD files. And they're currently at 144 DPI. So what we want to do, or pixels, pixels. So we want to go under image size, and set that resolution to 72 and set the width to 1400 for Behance. Hit OK. You want to save that file. And you want to do the same for the laptop. So go under image, set that at 72 and 1400. It's going to make the file a lot smaller, but it's also going to make it to the correct resolution so it imports properly into After Effects. Hit OK and save that. So while I was putting this demo together, I realized to animate these the home page and your mobile in After Effects, unfortunately when it imports the PSD file, it actually crops the image here. So we have to do a little bit of a hack. And so our third step is to go to your original design files, and we need to make a PNG of our homepage and our mobile homepage. And this is relatively easy to do. If we go under File, we're going to do Export for screens. We're going to select the two artboards that we want. So in my scenario, I have artboard 1 and artboard 2, which is home and mobile. And so I'm just going to select those two. I'm going to target a folder of where I want them. So I'm going to just put them in my assets folder with my phone and my laptop image PSD files. Hit choose. And then I'm going to select PNG format because usually that's a little bit higher res and higher quality than a JPEG. I'm going to hit export artboard, and this is going to make two graphics that I can import into After Effects and animate the scrolling effect that we're going to try to do. So our last step is how we're going to build this hero image. So we really have two parts. We have our PSD files that we just updated, and then we have this background that we've created in Illustrator. So we're going to import that PSD file, and then we're going to import the Illustrator file. So what I've done is I've taken this background, I've copied and pasted it, so when I go to import, I'm not importing all these other pages. I just made a hero header Illustrator file, pasted that all in there, and from Newsworthy, hopefully everybody remembers this, it's one of the tedious parts of doing production, in Illustrator to After Effects is we remember that if it's all in one layer, that layer ends up being flattened when we import it into After Effects. So we need to select that layer, and then under the little hamburger menu here, we're going to release layers to sequence. And as you all remember, then that allows me to make each individual line element a layer. So then I can select all of them, drop them in here, and just save. Okay, so let's start by opening up After Effects. And before we make a new comp, I just want to talk about how much time I think that composition should be based on everybody's height of their actual homepage layout. My guess is that it's going to be anywhere between 30 to 40 seconds for everybody to scroll from the top to bottom. That's including like 2 or 3 seconds of pause at the beginning and then a nice ease in and out. So under new comp, I'm going to set the time to, let's say, 35. And then your height, remember earlier in the demo, we wrote down the height of our comp, and mine was 1359. And then also the width is the standard Behance at 1400. And I'm just going to hit OK. So now we have our comp, and we're ready to import. So under File, Import, and Import File, I'm going to go into my Behance Assets folder, and I'm going to import the laptop and phone. I'm going to retain the layer sizes and hit Open, hit OK. So this will bring the laptop and phone in so we can start to work with that. And now we need to import our Illustrator file. I have a hero header image. Again, composition, retain, layer. I'm going to say create composition so it makes a separate comp to work with, and hit open. Double click that, and just to double check, when you import it, to make sure it imports all the layers properly, just double click it. So now we have everything imported and we're ready to animate. Just make sure you save. I honestly just forgot to save, and I'm just going to call this Hero Animation. And I'm going to save it in my Behance folder and hit save. All right. Okay, so let's get our layout set up before we animate. Our comp 1 is like our render comp in 4D, and we're going to just drop in the hero header that I've made as a comp, which is the background, and then our laptop and phone comp in. So in the laptop and phone, it probably still has the background in place. If you double click the comp, you can turn off that color, which will make it transparent. And in my design, this was a little further down, and actually is a little bit smaller. Something more like that. So now we're set up to animate. Okay, so we're ready to make a simple scrolling home page. So in your comp, we're just going to open the lap phone comp, then the notebook, and you'll see a couple files in here. One, we have the border, which really makes our mask or track mat. And so I'm going to select the mockup, and I'm going to target that because our longer home page will animate underneath it. So under track mat, I'm going to select border, and that mat's in when we double click the mockup our initial home page here. So again, the issue is that when we imported the Photoshop file into After Effects, it actually crops it. So what I want you to do is, you can see I drew some guides. So if you don't have your rulers up, Command R to bring them up, and then just draw some guides to frame the layout here. And once you do that, you turn it off, and then you want to import from your assets folder, and we had exported 2 PNG files, one of the home for the desktop and one of the mobile. So we're going to select the artboard for the desktop. I'm going to create a composition, hit open, close that artboard, and then we're just going to drop that new artboard we created and simply scale it down so it fits. Once it fits, then we're just going to drag it all the way to the top of the layout and have that snap in place. And we're going to hit P for position, keyframe, K to jump to the end, hit keyframe again, and we're going to change that position to the bottom of the design. And we're going to throw some ease on it. So we're going to do an easy ease in and an easy ease out. And jump back to the beginning, close the mock-up. You can see, scroll real fast, you can see it's working. In our notebook file, we can close that and see that it's working in our laptop. So if we go back to the original comp, you can see that it animates in that original comp. Now, if I go to render it, I'll let everybody know it takes a while to render, so you gotta be patient. So the quickest way to test this is just kind of scrub the timeline really quickly to make sure that it's animating properly. And then you can test render it. All right. So what if you want to experiment with a different type of scrolling animation for your home page? So again, I'm just going to open laptop phone, open the notebook, and then get back to our mock-up. I'm just going to duplicate the animation I have, turn it off, just so I keep it in case I want to go back to it. And again, open position. Going to delete my end keyframe now. And what I'm going to propose is maybe in 2 seconds this moves down. Again, remember our guide's kind of our cropping point with the laptop. So maybe it moves to something like this. And what I'm going to do is change the ease on it. So turn it back to a normal keyframe, control click, and then do an ease in. Then what I'm going to create again is a toggle hold. And then I'm going to have it hold that position, let's say for like 1.5 seconds. A keyframe again. Keep the toggle hold. One more time, then do the same where I'm going to do ease out, and then if I do around 2 seconds again, I'm going to move that position maybe a little further down, ease in, control click, reset it. Command click, ease in, and so we get something that looks more like where you can pause. I didn't quite move right. I guess it did. So let's look back here how it looks on the Sorry, it's better to go back one and look at it on the notebook. So scroll and pause. Bear with it, it's rendering still, so scroll, pause. Kind of highlighting the main sections of the design. So that's an alternative way of animating. I didn't do the whole thing, but you kind of get the point. Is you ease out, ease in, do a toggle hold that holds how long you want it to pause, ease out, ease in, and you kind of highlight the next section you want to look at. Okay, so let's talk about animating the mobile screen. So let's double click the lap and phone, and we're going to open the phone and do the same process we did before. The border is this mask here, and we're going to target that border, and voila, the design that we have from the PSD files in there. We're going to double click it, and it's going to be the same process as before. Make sure your rulers are on. Draw a guide. Draw a guide. And another. Turn that layer off. Import your mobile version. You can close that and just drop that into the file. Move it over, hit scale, line it up, probably scale it down a little more, but again, it's the same process as before. Line it up here, and then I can just check all the way back to lap and phone that it's in place. So the bigger question is, how should that animate with the background animating? So I think you have like 3 possible choices. The first choice is to let the background animate and you don't animate the phone. The second choice is this animates all the way through a long scroller, and then the phone animates while the home page stays at the end. And your third choice is possibly to animate like this one does, and it has the pause. Then you animate the phone and it pauses. Then the laptop animates and pauses. Then the phone, and you go back and forth. So I think that is ultimately up to you as the designer, how you would like to animate your laptop and phone together. And that is your choice. Okay, so let's talk about a intro animation, and currently you have your laptop and mobile animating how you would like, and what I mean by intro animation is just how all the elements on the screen come into the main frame. So I did a basic hero animation for our background logo and then graphic elements, and it looks something like this. And just to break that down, just do a scale wipe with the anchor point at the bottom, scaling to 100%, track matte the logo in, and then animate the position of all my graphic elements. So most of you will have some sort of background and also your logo. Your graphic elements can animate from out of the frame into the frame, or they can simply use opacity to come into the frame as well. This animation should probably be about 2 seconds, 3 seconds max. So again, don't make it take forever to load in. So, and also if you have a photograph, you probably can animate it in by using opacity or some sort of track matte as well, just depending on what you have to work with. Again, the thing is to probably keep it simple and appropriate based on what you've designed. So that being said, our animation looks something like this. Loads all the elements in. And you can see that the laptop is animating right off the bat. So I think what you want to have is a introduction of 2 to 3 seconds. Then the laptop and the phone start to animate. So to do that, I have to go back into my laptop, into the notebook, into the mockup, take those keyframes and push them to about 2 seconds. So then you see something more like this, where it'll load in, and then my animation for my laptop will start to happen. The other thing I did is just on the laptop and phone, as it animates in, just the basic opacity of the laptop and phone. And one last little thing I added to at the end of the comp here is the whole time I've had transparency. When I would go to render that, that would change it to black. So I just made a white solid, so under new solid in the background. So if you have a transparent element, just make sure that you fill it with the appropriate solid so that when you render it, it doesn't have any issues. So once our animation is complete, just like in 4D, we want to come into File, go to Export, and export to Media Encoder Queue. And it should jump over to Media Encoder. You want to click, and we're going to use the same settings as before, where you do a VBR2 pass, hit OK. You want to make sure you're targeting your folder. So inside our Behance presentation, I have a Hero Animation After Effects file, and then I'm just going to call this Hero Animation. You can call it whatever you want. The naming doesn't matter. And I'm going to hit save, and then, as we all recall, you just want to hit the play button to start to render out our animation. This concludes our lesson. We covered pre-production of your assets so that you can better prepare them for importing into After Effects, how to do a homepage scroll animation for both desktop and mobile, an intro animation that loads all of the graphic elements into the screen, and then also covered mobile animation. Thanks for watching, and best of luck with your presentation. Thank you.